Would you call roll, please?
Ms. Wendy Keener,
Here.
Mr. Richard Wilhauer,
Here.
Mr. Clint Russell,
Here.
Ms. Kelly Kappas, Mr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Please stand for the prayer and flag salute. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with us today during this meeting and put your hand on all the decisions that we make for the school and for our community. In Jesus' name, amen. Agenda item number 4 is the consent agenda, which is items A through I. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Wilhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell,
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item number 5, superintendent's report, revenue collections and expenditures.
Okay, I'm gonna put them all through together, so it's a little bit lengthy, but I wanted to start with the finance and the report that you got, that Rhonda sends out the Friday before that we sent out. Obviously, it's correct, but there's been a lot of movement since then. We actually received about 700,000 Wednesday night, between Wednesday night and Thursday morning, and the different, we never know what the State Department's gonna do, but normally they give us 11 payments. They take our allocation, divide it by 11 on the certain categories. And, we would get it in September. The categories, basically the foundation and salary incentive aid are the biggest part. Then there's the, in lieu of FBA for a couple, and the health allowance of a couple. But anyway, instead of dividing it by 11, or divide it by 10 starting in September, they divided by 11 starting in August, which was really good for us. So we have that money there. Mr. G and Ms. Rouse and myself have been looking at opportunities and avenues to go back and start collecting some money on our investments and the interest part. We did really well, and then last few months it hasn't been good, so we're currently looking at that. But just kind of an overall, from the numbers part, I just put that because it's very fluid based on the allocations and the timing, which I just alluded to. But our attendance, to be real honest, is down. It's lower than it's been in several years, but that's also a trend and tendency across the state. I don't know of one public ed school that is up. And, you know, there's 3 big reasons why. That ever since COVID, the number since 2020 has drastic. The Oklahoma's public students have dropped. And one is, once they got a taste of virtual learning, a lot of them have stayed on that, whether it's Epic or another virtual learning component outside of Inola. Number of homeschool has went up, especially at the younger grades. By the time they get to middle school and high school, parents are sending them back to us, and our high school numbers are pretty much where they've been. 10. And so, but as a district, we're considerably lower. Like our second or third grade has 66 students, and that's a record low for us for a lot of years. Now, I fully expect by the time they get to Patrick and to Heather, those numbers increase a little bit. But, and the reason I say that is obviously that's a huge component in figuring up our federal funding and state funding. We are very state aid dependent still. It's getting better, especially with Sofidel coming on the books this year. But I've talked about it for several times, and I know the admin get tired of it. When I got the job, years 4 through 6 was what I felt like was going to be the valley. The good news is I feel like it's going to be year 4, and I think year 5 will start the rebound. I don't think it's going to be a 3 years in the valley, but the problem is this is starting year 4. So this is the year that I've been dreading and been talking about for a while, just for a lot of components that we knew was coming. And again, when Sofidel goes on and the state recognizes that as a chargeable, then they take that back. And our fiscal year is delayed from the state. And so from January through June 30th will probably be our worst part of the finance part of it, and that's why we've been kind of pumping the brakes for several years in anticipation of that. We're going to continue to do that. But I will say, we're not going to cut at this point things that are good for students and our faculty. And so what I mean by that is we spent all of our textbook money and some, and a lot, to be honest with you, on curriculum. And I don't know if the principals are going to get into it this month or next month, but we've got, each building has identified some curriculum that's going to help with benchmarking. It's going to help with the overall curriculum, whether it's, we have an Amplify system, we have middle school's IXL learning, the high school has Edgenuity. So anyway, all those things, we're not cutting back on those, but anything else, we are definitely cutting back. The other thing is, and you saw it, and we've talked about it, the $2,000 raise for teachers that the state implemented and mandated. The things that a lot of people don't see is a teacher, in this case, a teacher is not a teacher is not a teacher. It's not every teacher was mandated a $2,000 raise. It was just certain teachers, and it's just my thought, that's a terrible precedent to say that you get it because you teach this, but you don't get it because you teach that and all that. So as a district, we were able to go across the board and give everybody the $2,000 step increase in addition to the step. But I want to read this, and there's a lot of numbers, so that's why I printed this out. But, so bear with me. But state aid, which was established July 21st, and the fringe benefit, which was established July 20th. Those allocations were posted to the State Department of Ed website then. The initial factor of 44.84, which is an increase of 139.45 over the final fiscal year 26 factor of 43.44 and 55 cents, which was an increase of $211 over the initial FY 26 factor of 42.72. School districts calculate the cost of teacher pay raise compared with the state aid to determine whether the additional allocations will cover the raise. And I think you probably know where I'm going as far as covering the raise. The teacher pay raise will cost $23.42 per teacher for districts that do not pay employees' portion of TRS as a fringe benefit. Districts that do pay the employees' portion of TRS as a benefit, it goes up to $24.82 per teacher. And that calculation is just for the 26, not the 27 with the salary steps. So all that to say, I anticipate it costing us $3,239.79, of which we're allocated $2,000. So when they say the state gave us that, yeah, they gave $2,000 for a certain number. It's going to cost us probably $32.39 across the board. And so, but again, if we have money, I think curriculum and staffing is the best place to put it, to keep classroom numbers as low as we can and to give them the best opportunities. We can cut in other places, but those are the areas that we've kind of identified as the biggest need. And then some things that are just specific to Inola. Again, is how heavily dependent we are on state aid. The more dependent you are, the bigger these cuts, the deeper they are for us. And then with the state a few months ago, we're taking away the virtual day component from us and us adding these Mondays, which I'll get into in a second, but every additional school day that we go in the traditional sense, even though we're not going any more hours traditionally because we went so many hours last year, but every traditional day that is added, and I think it was 15 this year, in bus driving and transportation salary alone, not wear and tear, not diesel, not anything, just bus drivers' salary is $1,300 a day for this district. So if you take $1,300 times 15, there's another added expense and that one is just something that a lot of districts didn't have to do and add that to the budget. So anyway, all that saying, we, Ms. Rouse and Mr. G and I discuss this stuff very, very often, and I'm very appreciative of Rhonda for all the work that she does. But anyway, that's the numbers part of it. I want to address a few things that I've been asked throughout the summer and especially over the last week and a half since we started. Just asking for some patience from parents where the drop-off pickup is a work in progress. We have Mr. G and I try to be at one of the sites every morning along with the principals, and we have an SRO to take care of the drop-off pickup. It's not there yet, but it's much better. But at the elementary, and this stuff is gonna be posted on our website. We're very excited about an updated website that hopefully is gonna help communication across the board. So if you haven't checked out the website, it's still a work in progress, but we're about there. But we will have it updated. But basically at the elementary, you have the chain link fence in the middle of the parking lot. If you're gonna drop off on the west side, the old side for us old timers, the drop off is in front of the gym, the furthest west point by the old football field. The main elementary entrance is just for parents that have to come in and bring their kid. It's mainly for third and fourth grade, because that's where their classrooms are. Not saying we can't drop off pre-K and kindergarten, but there's on the other end of campus. So if you're dropping off on the east side of the fence, there's multiple drop-offs because we have our fourth grade leadership team and our safety vest, and they're helping with the unloading the kids, because at that age, instead of mom getting out, parking and helping them out, our fourth grade team does that. So that's at the elementary. The high school, we're starting to implement this next week. You know, we've got during the school day, we'll have 1 point of entrance during the school day, and that's the main one off of a commercial across from First Baptist. We'll come in there. The drop off, if parents will please help, and we've talked to our high school, middle school students, there's one place for drop off, and that's in front of the office, either the high school or the middle school. We have parents trying to, just be real honest, beat the system, and they're dropping off at baseball field, they're dropping off by the media center, they're dropping off everywhere, and it's just too dangerous to have people darting in and out. So if you'll please adhere to that. If you're a drop off, I would come in off commercial. If you're a student who's going to park in the student parking, I would come in from True Value across by the ag and by the baseball softball and come right there. You can still go through there to drop off, but you'll take a right, head south and go down by the bus barn and then go to your normal drop off and pick up. The area in front of the fine arts on the north end of the student parking lot is just for bus parking only, or bus drop off only. We got students and parents running those red lights on the buses, and just not a good situation. So we're still working on it. Appreciate Deputy Yoder and Officer Ronnie from the IPD and our admin. But we're getting there, so ask for a little bit of help. And the other part is we have altered the start time, so it's 10 minutes earlier there. So people that have multiple drop-offs or both campuses, they have 10 more minutes to get over there. So hopefully that's helping. I already talked about the website. To give you a little bit of update on the bond, we've had several meetings. We got another meeting this afternoon. The picture up on the board, that is far from being decided. They gave us a few options, and this is the option that at this point we identified as what we feel like is the best, and the road going around it, just because of what we talked about, the drop-off pickup. Obviously, that's the old football field, practice field, and game field combined. The part in yellow is our existing, and so if and when we added a early childhood, that would go down to the south part of and so we would be able to have two distinct campuses, an upper elementary and an early childhood. But for now, the early childhood will stay on that east wing, and then the east part of the old building where the library is, that juts out to the north. And so we're renovating enough because our pre-K and K will be nice in the east wing and get enough first grade classrooms renovated by the media center when we start the new construction. So a little bit about them. We've done that part of it. Our next meeting will again be how many roads we have coming in and out. And then we sent out a survey to our elementary faculty, to all the faculty, and asking for their input. Now, we know that if we ask 40 teachers, we'll probably get 40 different opinions, but we want to know what their ideas are and things that maybe we hadn't thought of. So that's coming in the next few days. The engineers have walked several times the main gym for the air conditioning. They did find some insulation. We are actually able to find the original blueprints. I can't believe we were able to find that. And so as soon as there's a break, of course with basketball, wrestling, volleyball, there won't be a break, but we'll be able to start on that. And then the other part of it was technology, and we've been able to update our computer lab. So some of the bond money is in action as we speak. Had a lot of summer projects. If you noticed, where the teachers park at the high school and the student drop off is now all fully asphalted, and that's thanks to Miss Kay Ingersoll and the Ingersoll family, the money that they donated. Last year, we still had some left over to do that part. Now we've got a little bit more, and we're hoping to address the backside going out to True Value and using as much as we can on that. Hopefully that'll be a fall break project, but we got to line that up. Still got a little bit of T-Mobile money. We were able to buy some storage containers for some of the sports, which will free up space. Big upgrade was to the band room. We pulled up that old carpet, which was terrible and thin, with carpet tiles, replaced and renovated the walls. So excited about that. Our summer crews have done a great job painting and floors, and you notice they did it here too. Had 2 summer crews, very thankful for them. Maintenance, transportation, and IT. I've worked all summer on summer projects, not to mention the day-to-day stuff. It's been really hard. This heat has been really hard on our HVAC units for the last few days. And so every time I get a call from Clint or Sean, I know it's going to cost us a lot of money, but it is what it is. And then I think probably there's an election coming up 2 weeks or less than 2 weeks, on the 25th. And obviously I'm not going to get into who to vote for, but please educate yourself. There's 2 state questions that at least one of them will directly impact the schools. And then depending on your parties, we've got a U.S. Senate race, 15 state rep and Senate races, labor commissioner, insurance commissioner, and then for us, the governor and superintendent of public instruction will be huge races. So not going to go any further than that, but please educate yourself and get out and vote on that part. And then just want to thank the faculty and staff for a great start. People don't realize to start as early as we did and be the second one in the state to start, how much it hampers the summer projects, and especially with the heat. So did a great job with that. The banks, last Monday was the first day of professional development. We started at 7:45, went to 7 o'clock. Bank first fed us breakfast. During professional development, bank RCB fed us lunch. Appreciative of those guys. Chamber of Commerce worked the back to school night to equip the students with the supplies, which is super helpful. So thankful for the banks and for the chamber for that help. And the very last thing is September 21st. The Inola Enrichment Education Foundation will be hosting their big fundraiser at Heritage Hills in Claremore. So the 21st. So if you need information about how to get a team in or sponsorship, get a hold of me, Coach Thompson, or Miss Rosa Lee will have that information. So it's September 21st. And that money is a huge asset to us. So normally they're not that long. I apologize for the lengthy one, but that's my report.
Okay, agenda item number 6 is principal's report. Who wants to go first?
Okay, the elementary is a great start. Enrollment right now is 485 as of today. Our first grade this year had a back-to-school parent information night, which was super informative and beneficial, and I think we're going to probably start doing that next year for all grade levels, because I think they were able to answer a lot of questions and get parents off to a great start. I think at this point we are all new curriculum across the board this year, starting with our new reading curriculum, so super excited about that. Teachers are probably a little bit overwhelmed, but I think we're going to be heading in the right direction this year. A lot of changes that happened really late for us. Our kindergarten enrollment, all of a sudden, the Friday before school started, shot up way high, and we had to add a new teacher last minute. So that was lots of fun to look for quality people at the end of the year. So on Friday, we had to post for a new teacher, and at 12:30 on Monday, we interviewed and hired. So we're going to be recommending Maddox Thomas as a new second grade teacher. So she's a first year teacher that just graduated. So she's going to be hopefully our new second grade teacher. And then last minute we had the first grade teacher that resigned last minute on us after the first day of school. So that was lots of fun, but turns out that, long story short, had a parent reach out to me this summer that had a kindergarten student that she was worried about not going to be transitioning real well in kindergarten. She goes, I just want to make sure he transitions well. So I met her. Turns out that she was an Inola graduate, a former teacher that was staying home with her littles, and I immediately thought when you get ready to go back to work, I need you to call me because you're gonna be phenomenal. So we start looking for teachers to replace her, and I said, Stephen, I'm gonna call Shelby Crawford. He goes, she's not gonna come back to work. And I said, I don't care, she can tell me no. So I called and she said, I really might be interested. And she said, I have to let you know right now. And I said, just by the end of the day. And she called and she goes, I'm interested. So we found a rock star with Shelby Crawford. So, it was amazing. We hired Maddox at 12:30, or offered her position at 12:30 on Monday, and she was at back to school night by 5:30 on Monday. Shelby picked up a badge at, 2 o'clock on Friday, or on Monday, or no, Friday, and her room was ready, and she was at school on Monday and meeting parents at first grade parent night. So we have found 2 people that are ready to join our team and make us better. So super excited. They were in a whirlwind situation, but they jumped in and have been full force. So we are very lucky to have them. So anyway, great back to school at the elementary, and we are looking forward to a great year.
All right, as not to piggyback on this, Thomas, but I will. We had a great start to our school year as well. Overall, we had 16 new students this year, 6 in 5th grade, 4 in 6th grade, 3 in 7th, and 3 in 8th. And then right now, as of when I left to come over here at 11:15, we currently have 3 that are in the process of enrolling, so that'll put us at 19 new students. Even though we have 19 new students, our enrollment is still down about 10 from last year at this time, sitting roughly just under 400 students. Between the first 3 days, we conducted our class meetings, laid out all of our expectations, and we as well are looking forward to a great school year in the middle school.
At the high school, I will say that I think this was our smoothest start ever, was this year, so that's awesome. We did have 24 kids move, but we had 18 move in. Of course, it's hard to determine sometimes, since we are so early starting, that sometimes if they're not gonna move in, if they start if their other school were to start later, sometimes that gets confusing. So, we are implementing a new check-in and check-out program for concurrent kids and for those that are in tech and internship. Right now, sometimes you have hours in the middle of your day, and so they're gonna be scanning their badges, which is gonna go be part of our new parking lot situation, which we have the new fences. And that way we don't have kids sneaking off a lot, and hopefully will help us be more accountable to where all the kids are all the time. And we're excited about that. Tonight's Meet the Longhorns. If you are interested in sweating, you should come. So that's what we're gonna be doing, but they're gonna do a little inter-squad scrimmage, and we're gonna have big inflatables with slides and popsicles, water, I don't know, all the exciting stuff. Anyway, that is tonight, starts at 6 o'clock. So anyway, like I said, maybe some of us could go down the slides. There are gonna be water slides, not just the regular, so we're not gonna have a sauna. And we are starting our first Horns Up, Scores Up meeting with the teachers next week. Last year we did that to try to increase our ACT scores. It's hard to say because you're not testing the same kids, but our scores did go up. Some teachers have some opinions though of how maybe we could make it even better. So we're gonna meet and kind of come up with a game plan, and that will be part of our benchmarking and all that good stuff. So that's cool.
I don't have a lot, but we've had a great start, a lot of new families, new students, it's all going well, and our teachers are doing a great job, so we're very happy with that.
I'd athletics rolling, of course, Ellis is always good for stealing my thunder, there's a game tonight. Football, actually this year we got to start a week early. I'm glad because they had a little cool, they could practice and then the heat rolled in, so they're practicing at 6 in the morning, so if you drive by and see the lights on about 5:45, I kick them on, and it's hot. They're doing some special team stuff in the afternoon during school with no helmets. All of our sports, volleyball's rolling, they're at Burgers right now, softball's rolling. We have a few coaches coming in. We also have our shot clocks up. This year they'll start shot clocks, so we have them up so they can start preparing that. I'll eventually probably get a rollaway set for the practice gym, so both whoever's in where they can use it. We have a donation, so we're getting a new scoreboard in the gym on the west end. It's a big scoreboard. I'm trying to swing the wind also a new scores table. So
Do you have anything? Nope.
No, it's a good day for me today, so I'm just happy to be here.
Okay, agenda item number 7, citizens' comments. Do you have anyone? No. Okay, move on to agenda item number 8, discussion and vote to approve or disapprove policy FNCD bullying, prohibiting harassment, intimidation, and bullying, regulation, investigative procedures, retroactive July 29th of 26.
Okay, so this is, the state asked us to modify and upgrade. This is straight from the OSSBA, the recommendation, but this had to go into effect July 29th. It was hard to coordinate a time for a special board meeting for one short item, so they allowed us to move it to this one as long as you guys make the motion that it's retroactive to July 29th, and that's why this one's standalone, because this is the only one that will be retroactive to this decision. So that's what that is about.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 8.
Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener.
Yes.
Mr. Richard Willhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell.
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item number 9, discussion and vote to approve or disapprove policies, child identification, location, screening, and evaluation notice to parents, extended school year program standards, student discipline.
This is just one that we have to update based on new changes of verbiage. So
Make a motion to approve agenda item number 9.
Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener.
Yes.
Mr. Richard Willhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell.
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item number 10, discussion and vote to approve or disapprove Inola High School virtual school rules and regulations.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 10.
Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener.
Yes.
Mr. Richard Willhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell.
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item number 11, discussion and vote to approve or disapprove OTEP.
that's the teacher empowerment program. Gives the teachers an opportunity to earn some more money as they got to meet certain criteria, but it's state money. It doesn't cost us anything, and it gives our staff professional development and a chance to make some more. So
Make a motion to approve agenda item 11.
Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener.
Yes.
Mr. Richard Willhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell.
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item number 12, discussion and vote to approve or disapprove IAC negotiation contract.
This is where we need to be approving this at this time of year. Last few years, or for several years, it's been September and even October. I was super excited. I mean, one, there wasn't many changes. There had to be some updated with school times changing, but nothing changed. And very appreciative of the IAC team and their negotiators. We met twice this summer, and they were both really good meetings, and they understand the situation we're in, and I feel like both sides are working towards together, so I appreciate them.
Motion to approve the IAC contract.
Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener.
Yes.
Mr. Richard Willhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell.
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item 13, discussion and vote to approve or disapprove lowering the threshold amount for non-kickback disclosure required for Inola School District contracts, purchase orders, and invoices from $25,000 to $10,000 or more.
Okay, this is something to be 100%, this is not asked by the state, this is talking to Kelly and a few people here. This, I believe, is just, to be real honest, it's CYA to cover us with bond money and all these expenses getting ready to be out. The state, years ago, had it at $10,000 threshold to have the non-kickback disclosure signed by the company. A few years ago, the state raised that to 25. It's been 25 for several years. And I don't know of any other district that is doing this, but I think just to cover ourselves, if it's over 10,000, I would like to make the company sign the non-disclosure that we are not getting a kickback. And so I just think it's a little bit of extra work on Kelly and myself and the company itself, but if they can't sign the piece of paper for $10,000, they need to be somewhere else. So it's just covering ourselves where we're not ever accused of getting a kickback from anything like that.
Make a motion to approve agenda item number 13.
Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener.
Yes.
Mr. Richard Wilhauer,
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell,
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item 14, discussion and vote to approve or disapprove Gene Tyler as adjunct teacher for history government for the school year 26-27.
Wasn't he on here a couple months ago?
See, I thought so
He
too.
got hired.
Huh?
He got hired then, but not as adjunct.
Oh, it's the adjunct part of it. It's not the employment, just his teaching is the adjunct. That's right.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 14.
Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener.
Yes.
Mr. Richard Wilhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell.
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item 15, discussion and vote to approve or disapprove the resignation letter of Carrie Hallman effective July 24th of 26.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 15. Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener.
Yes.
Mr. Richard Wilhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell.
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item 16, discussion and vote to approve or disapprove the resignation letter of Chelsea Boyd effective August 6th of 26.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 16.
Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener.
Yes.
Mr. Richard Wilhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell.
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item 17, Phyllis Spurlock to address the board regarding the district's policies for accepting donations, sponsorships, and advertisements.
Either way, wherever you want.
Just right here.
That's fine with me.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. I have recently been made aware of the fact that there have been companies proposing and supporting the building of the smelter in our town that have donated money to various programs and projects of our school. That information came indirectly my way via an anonymous text. And you can be assured by the time I heard that, 50 other people have already heard it. It's old news. Additionally, this group continues to contact our schools to see what more they can contribute. I know that this goes back, personally I know this goes back as far as March at OIE. They made contact to try to donate to the ag program. My initial reaction was just absolute moral indignation. And I don't think I'm alone in that. As a citizen and an alum fighting against this smelter and fighting for the safety of our community and school, I was horrified. Donations from this group have a specific purpose. Give the impression that the school has no problem with a smelter being built close to our children. I remain personally offended by these donations, but after speaking to two very intelligent men who I respect greatly, I was told, take the money. If they're willing to offer it, take the money. My heart doesn't go there, but I'm just telling you what I've been told. If our school chooses to accept these funds, I recommend we give them a big old wish list. Don't take the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Tell them we need a new Suburban for the motor pool. Tell them we need a new state-of-the-art STEM lab. Make it big if that's what they're willing to give. But any acknowledgement of any donation they give should be a thank you card, nothing more. No plaques, no branding, no mention of their name. They would like to have that. I know that most of the donors to this school don't ask for recognition, they ask for anonymity. And just understand what these people are giving is for recognition. This smelter will have a negative impact on our schools for years, but Jolene, Matt, and Thomas have a whole lot more to say on that than me. I'm here to just talk about a path forward for accepting donations. I'd like to recommend that the school board set out some sort of a written policy guidelines for accepting donations. Anything in excess of $500 cash or goods should have to pass through this administration for approval or disapproval. Jinx Schools has a policy just like this. I think we should closely examine the motive of any donation that comes from someone with no apparent ties to our school or our town. Again, donations from anyone affiliated with this smelter, if we decide to accept those donations, are not altruistic. I'd also like to get some information about, have a similar guideline for accepting advertising in our yearbooks, sports signs, stadium signs, the T-Mobile sign. As for the T-Mobile sign, I would specifically like to know how to get on that for advertising, because I understand that EGA has been on that scoreboard for over a year now with a scrolling banner. I'm going to qualify that as I've not seen it. I've been told that it's there. I'd like to know how that got up there. What's the contract? Can I get up there? Can I get up, there's just things we don't know. I'd just like to get some answers to those questions as to the T-Mobile scoreboard. I know you guys have more to do than you can get your hands around, and I'm not trying to give you more work. I just think that these two written guidelines for advertising and donations are important. And if it gets to be too hard, if it's too much, maybe someone could volunteer under your supervision to head up that process, if it came a process. 20, 30, 40 years ago, we didn't have to worry about why somebody was giving money to the school. They gave it because they loved the school. They graduated here, they lived here. We don't have that luxury anymore, and that's very sad. We want what's best for our school, and donations are always a huge part of that. But there's gonna become a time, and I'm afraid it's gonna come sooner rather than later, where you're gonna be asked this question: are the donations from these smelter people more important than the donations from your legacy donors? Because it may be one or the other, but I suspect it will not be both. Thank you for your time.
And since she is on the agenda, we can interact and ask questions or whatever you guys want to do. If anybody has any comments or questions.
I think we just need to gather, I know we have a policy on donations, I think it's kind of a legacy policy, so I mean, I think if you can do some research and find out what maybe Jinx does or other schools, and you can bring that back to us, we can look at, see if we need to revamp it.
So the current, and that's the whole deal, is the current policy we have says that we accept donations, and that the only donation we don't accept from is from the tobacco industry. That's in our policy. So to update it, I've talked to Stillwater, talked to Jinx, Collinsville, I have theirs, and I think, well, I know you're right on the to me, the common theme or common thread to those guys is they go to the superintendent with the donation, and I'll be honest, I'll give myself, it's a rubber stamp. Of course, they're going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, but then some have a threshold of $500, some have 1,000, some have whatever. We determine that, and if it's a donation, they come and it's a board agenda item to approve that specific donation. In our current policy, I believe our current policy says that no recognition or plaque or anything can be given unless the board approves as a board agenda item. It's exactly right. You give the thank you letter, thanks, but no thanks. I mean, thanks for all you do. If you want more, then that's got to be board approved. And so it's my understanding that we can't do that without the board. Now, the board could choose to acknowledge and name it the Phyllis Spurlock, whatever, but that would have to be a board decision to do that. But as policy, so I think Mr. Russell's right. We need to sit there, gather other information, especially I think we take Jinx and those guys, but I think we look at schools maybe similar in our size, and I don't mind doing that and getting 5 or 6, 10 schools and then running it by OSSBA and then come back, and then we can either decide that the policy we have in place is good, or we'd like to add this line or that line or whatever, and make sure the OSSBA or RFR gives us the green light and we can do anything like that. And that's kind of like the policy of the kickback. We run that by them, they give us thumbs up, and then if you guys vote on it. So that would be my suggestion, is what Clint said, is to, and I don't mind spearheading that and looking at that. I don't mind if you guys want to do that yourself and bring it to, I don't care, because it's going to be ultimately your, but I don't mind doing that, and I've got some of them that I've started.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else on that? Okay, agenda item 18. Matt Peters and Thomas Harrington to address the board regarding possible safety and health concerns with the proposed smelter to Inola schools, staff, students, and facilities.
Handout material for you guys. We're not going to cover everything, but it's something for you guys to reference here. Tom's going to have other stuff after. I'll turn it over to him here in a second.
You can move that over if you want.
That's why I was just how it's easier to stand over there. I think we got time today. I'm going to read instead of re-glancing it because I have a tendency to ramble. Stand here today, not only as a graduate, but somebody who grew up in the school system. My dad's office used to be right over there. When school board meetings used to happen, I used to crawl around under the table long before when it was actually in that room over there. It's kind of surreal being here now. Both my parents retired from the school system. My wife got on the elementary school here for 10 years. As a family, we stood side by side with you guys when you guys needed the school bond passed. that's never a matter of what the numbers are, we just always have. There's a group here in town that's pretty much, if the school needs it, it's, everybody comes through, and took 3, pretty grueling times to get it done, but we finally got school bond passed, and, happy that, the school could move forward to look at some great things. The same care and loyalty that we had there, is exactly why we're kinda here today. We're facing, what some would call a threat, the long term of what happens to this town and even the school system. The heavy industrial aluminum smelter brings a lot of things, a lot of them positive, from a financial standpoint to the school. But a lot of serious concerns come along with it, to the students' health, the air quality, and campus safety that I don't think have really been talked about a lot publicly. Whether you guys know or not, I mean, the district's name's been mentioned multiple times, be it private meetings, be it, the name thrown around is in support of this or support of that, or, but one thing is clear is that as a school, I've not seen anything where you guys have come out on a stand on anything. Regardless of the source, the district has been condemned in some ways as basically taking the money and run. It's been condemned on social media, things like this that we don't like seeing, we don't like hearing, just simply since the bond's been passed. And to be clear, I'm not asking the school board, or we're absolutely not asking the school board to come out in favor or against the smelter. It's not what we think you guys need to be doing. I think you guys need to be impartial on it, but what we are asking you to do is come take a stand for the exact same reason that we fought for the bond, because we care about the school and the direction of the community. The school district needs to be on public record performing its proper due diligence regarding the industrial facility scale and how it's going to affect our facilities, staff, and students. We're asking the board to pass a formal resolution to stand before the city council and request an extension of the current moratorium that's in place. We didn't fight as hard as we did for the district's futures to watch it be compromised. It was in rushing to a moratorium decision. Requesting this moratorium extension simply gives the board the necessary time to fully understand the impact. Let's protect the investment we made in the school, protect our kids, and ensure the community's voice is heard. What I handed you guys there is a little bit of information. I'll get to in a second, but before I begin, I want to be clear about the information. None of it is intended to insult anyone's intelligence or suggest that members of the board haven't done their homework, which is a large and complicated project. Some of you have seen meetings, some of you haven't, so my wife being a teacher, I believe in putting everything on 3rd grade level to where everybody can read it. If you don't know anything about it, you can get up to speed pretty quick. All the numbers that are there are strictly from the permit that has been requested from EGA, OPA, the smelter. So none of it's manufactured, none of it's opinions, just straight from the requested permit numbers. I want to be specific about some here in a minute, but we don't have all the answers. That's really the reason for the presentation for the meeting today. We want to ask the questions. We want you guys to ask the questions, and I think there's a lot of things that we just don't know yet and how this is going to impact it. The biggest thing is we don't want you to rush anything that's going to affect our future of the district for many decades. On the first page is pretty much just an overview, just talking about how big the project is. I'm sure you guys have been in meetings and have seen it. Again, this is all from their page. I'm going to skip over, really going to page 2 where it just talks about the stuff that comes from the smelter. This is really isolated just how the school was affected. Obviously every emission isn't going to affect the school. We're going to zero in on a couple that matter. Really, it's the small particulate matter and the fluoride. Of everything that this thing emits, those are the 2 that are going to affect the school the most. If you go to the 3rd page, like I said, I've kind of breezed through this. This is more for you guys to understand. I just want to make a highlight. This PM10 and PM 2.5. This is the area that I think you guys probably need the most attention to from a standpoint of understanding what the difference is. It goes through and explains basically the micron size of the particles that get emitted. This is where it's going to affect the kids the most. Anybody who's respiratory sensitive, has asthma, any of the adults or elderly, like my mother who has COPD. The PM2 is what really gets in the lungs, can get into the bloodstream. That's really major concerns. The PM10 is a little thicker. That's more of a, nose, throat, upper airways, people having some reactions, a lot similar to allergies. But those are the things that, these are the two items that really are going to be an issue. We hope, and hopefully that they're not gonna be much of an issue, but you look at an elementary school. You know, I've had a conversation with Jeff before about this, and you just look at kids, again, my wife's been in elementary school for 20+ years, and it's a petri dish. You know, the kids track stuff in, out, touch, on their hands, it gets transferred to everything else. The deposition of the particles, you know, and things like that get tracked in from recess. Those are all just things we don't know how it's gonna affect. Nobody can really say because, the size of this facility, like, you know, nothing's been built like this in the state of, well, nothing's been like this in the United States. And so, everybody can estimate and guess, and give you, yeah, we think we're gonna come in well underneath the permitted numbers, and I hope they did, I hope that everything they say, they do, but we have to go off what they're getting permitted for right now. At this point in time, you gotta prepare for a worst case scenario. If you go to the next page, it talks about the fluoride. The major thing with fluoride is where the buildup takes place. Fluoride doesn't have a half-life. It doesn't go anywhere, it just sits there and builds up year after year. So it may not be an issue in year 1, year 2, but at some point in time, you know, you gotta ask your questions about, you know, the rubber on the football field, the sand at the track pit, you know, the playground equipment. At what point does it start getting affected? And we don't know those answers because, you know, there's, due to the lack of information that's out there on, there hadn't been a smelter built since 1980. You know, it's, we're in new territory here. So this is, the second main thing I would want to point out is just the fact and emphasis that obviously, you know, these numbers look drastic, but that's what they requested to be permitted for. I think just the big thing, understanding how it gets into the soil. I'm sure you guys have heard stories and things like that about soil samples being taken in town and from other towns and things like that. But really, like I said, the rest of it is really for your review. If you guys want to review it, you guys have questions later, always free to answer. Again, the main concern is that I don't think the school system's ever seen a situation where pollutants could be tracked in and out, coming in from the HVAC system, kids, playgrounds, questions that really you guys should never have to even think about or answer. We should never have to worry about as parents, but we do. And Thomas is going to come here and talk to you about some of the other items that we've got. And like I said, if you guys have any questions later, feel free to ask.
Yeah, I'll have these out. So these are just a few slides, and it's really just going to piggyback off of what Matt was just talking about. So I'm Thomas Harrington. I am not as long lived here in Inola as Matt is. I actually chose to move here, so I am not actually from Oklahoma even originally. So when I graduated college, had an engineering degree, trying to look for a job, found one down here in Oklahoma, moved down here. Actually the first week I moved down here, met my wife, so we got married, and we were looking for a house kind of right around COVID. So I actually chose and looked around and said, how far away from Tulsa can I get and still be within a reasonable distance to drive into town every day? And I ended up in Inola. And since then, loved it, been out here, have fully enjoyed my time being in this small part of the world that they claim we would have to leave. But that's what I love about Inola, right? Is I have a community, I have a town that is something that draws people in, but I'm not in the city, and that's what I chose to not be in. Now, it seems like it's going to come to us a little bit, but what I wanted to do, and Matt has some very specifics on this smelter in this location, that's not what's in this slide deck. So these slides, I wanted to give all of you kind of the basis. So Matt said, we have questions. It's not that we're for or against this specific smelter or project, there's just questions. And this, I wanted to kind of walk through the basis of where a lot of those questions come from. These questions are not something, as much as I want to take credit, and Matt and I are geniuses that came up with these questions, we're not. The rest of our country has had these heavy industry facilities for hundreds of years. I mean, there's some that go back to past the 1900s in the same locations. These questions have been answered. They've been talked about in other parts of the country, and for better or worse, Oklahoma hasn't had to deal with these same kind of problems. So let's look at some examples. And I kind of just summarized it there in that initial slide on that first page. Slide number 2 there. and 5 locations. And who got it wrong? Who got it right? And the first one is going to be the Kerry Ghosh Elementary. The related industry is a USS lead facility. That is in Chicago, so it's actually on the Indiana side, down at the kind of eastern, southern portion of Chicago. The second case is Boyle Heights, Maywood, Huntington Park, kind of a really big school district area there, all in LA. That was centered around the Exide Battery Recycling Facility, so that's in Los Angeles in California. The third one there is the 5th Ward Elementary. That's in St. John, I believe, in Louisiana. And that was located next to what was originally a Dow Chemical facility that then got sold to a company called Denka. And they produce synthetic rubber, neoprene, some of those kind of nasty polymers, but they are related to waterproofing and some different uses there. Fourth case is the Perez Elementary Juarez Community Academy. That's near an H. Kramer brass bronze smelter. So again, metallurgy, but a little different metallurgy, but still a smelter facility. Also again located in Chicago. The final one there is the Mark Twain School for Scholars. This one is actually located in Detroit, and it was near the Marathon Petroleum Refinery there. They had a little refining unit kind of near these schools. All of these schools are about 300 to 400 students, and all of these schools had other school districts and other areas around them impacted as well. These are just kind of the highlighted cases from each one of these little areas. So let's look at the first one. The first one's Kerry Ghosh Elementary. This one, I really wanted to highlight kind of what Matt was indicating about the long-term buildup. So about a mile or so, about 3/4 of a mile south of this elementary school was the US lead facility. This big smelter eventually turned into a scrap metal / battery recycling facility that mainly emitted lead and a lot of particulate. This facility actually closed in 1985. The EPA at that point, around 1985, 1992, submitted to try to get this acknowledged as a Superfund site back then. They didn't. There was a lot of discrepancies. EPA kind of claimed the state told them not to do it. There's a lot of notes of, hey, we're just going to hold off on this. But they recognized that there was enough issue to at least request application back in that 1985 timeframe. The school was actually constructed after the facility was already closed, and there was no more pollution happening. But when the school went in, they actually started to discover those lead levels were still there. And this gets to what Matt was saying about that long-term contamination. It may not impact us today, it may not impact us in 5 years, but almost 15 years after that facility closed, they built a brand new school with brand new facilities and everything, and they still saw this contamination get tracked into the school, get tracked in, and affect students. And the testing on this, I think this was done at the state level, but they tested lead levels basically, and this is where they started to see issues after the school was constructed in around 2000. By 2008, the EPA resubmitted and then actually got it approved as a Superfund site. From that point, as it was a Superfund site, within the school was categorized within that Superfund, they still had school, and they still detected lead levels in kids far in excess of what was allowable. It wasn't until 2016, when eventually enough reports had happened and enough community feedback had occurred, that they looked at closing the school. And they actually did this extremely suddenly. And they say it's in between, people have different estimates, of basically about a week before school started in the summer, they said, we have to do something. We can't continue to detect these levels. We don't feel safe with the kids coming in. And they just closed the school. To this day, it's still closed. They had to relocate all the students outside of the radius of the Superfund site. And the Superfund site basically covers, in that image there, kind of the green triangles where the site was. That entire neighborhood there is technically categorized as the Superfund site. So these kids are now going several miles further away to try to go to school. And again, this I wanted to just highlight. The smelter was already closed. This contamination had happened in the past. It's going to remain there. And like Matt said, it's not as bad as lead, right? Similar components, right? You have heavy metal contaminants and you have fluoride. It doesn't go away. It doesn't go anywhere unless you remediate it. So that's kind of the importance of this case. The other part being they detected these high lead levels for about 15 years before they were able to do anything. And the result was, without that monitoring in the early days, there was really nothing they could do. Their solution was, we have to close the school. That's kind of an extreme case, but I wanted to highlight that one first. The next one is Boyle Heights, Maywood, Huntington Park. This is a really big area. This was about 250, 300,000 residents in LA that were impacted by this facility. This was a car battery recycling facility operated from 1922 to about 2015. Starting in kind of the early 2000s, LA's DEQ, kind of Department of Environmental Quality equivalent, started doing continuous monitoring and kind of checking permitted limits in this area. And what they discovered was they were exceeding their permit limits from that entire period from about 2007 until 2015. The other thing that they found out was that there was only ever kind of a temporary permit that they were operating under. So there were some jurisdictional things that were allowing them to kind of skirt, but they were still exceeding their permitted limits for that entire period from 2007 to 2015. I'm not going to talk too much about the contamination on this. It was a very large area that was impacted. You can see here that's about a 2-mile radius in kind of central, dense, urban part of LA. So really large amount of people that were impacted, lots of different school districts here. What I wanted to point out in this case was, I think Matt has touched on it, it has definitely been a question asked, but the problem is we haven't seen an answer to this question, which is the remediation costs. So I mentioned US Lead, it stayed there, they had to, even after it was closed, you have to remove that contamination. In this case, 2015, when the company was finally forced to kind of shutter that site and admit that they could no longer produce within their permit, they agreed to pledge about $50 million to remediate this whole area and this location. On top of the company's $50 million, the state of California agreed to pay about $175. So already the state was putting in and the taxpayers were putting in about 3 times the amount that the company was for the cleanup of this area. Fast forward about 3 to 4 years, by 2019, the company had only ever paid $9 million of that $50 million that they had pledged for this cleanup. 2020 rolls around, they went bankrupt before they paid any more money. And they were actually able to walk away completely from this site and stick the entirety of the cleanup back on the taxpayers. That has, as of 2025, resulted in almost $700 million of remediation expenses in this area by the state, by the taxpayers, by the locals in this area. I actually thought it was really interesting. If you look up this case and the Exide battery recycling, the school districts actually had a very unique stance on this. They were going to be forced to test and clean up their own, basically all of their students on their budget. And I know you guys were talking about that from state funding. The state basically told them, you got to find this within your budget. And they actually had to take the stand together as school districts to say, no, we can't afford this. And that's where they actually had that increase up to, like I said, the $700 million. Part of that was the school districts had to stand together to say, as the state, you guys have to help us. We don't have enough to cover this. The company's nowhere to be found. They went bankrupt. They weren't held responsible. And that's one of the questions I think is really important. 30 years from now, who cleans it up? 10 years from now, if administrations shift and we're not pro reshoring of industry and they get shut down for some reason, are they going to have a financial instrument in place up front, they being the state, the company, whoever, to fund cleaning this up, fund remediating the sites, whatever is required? We don't have that clear answer yet, and I haven't seen that anywhere in contract. So that's really that case, is to mention you have to really find a way to watch the long term and watch the remediation costs. Next one is Perez Elementary Juarez Academy. Or did I skip one here? No, I skipped the 5th ward, sorry. So the 5th ward, this is in Louisiana. It's actually in a section of Louisiana kind of along their interstate waterways, kind of similar to what the port has here with that barging transport. It's called Cancer Alley. It has a huge amount of petrochemical complexes here. This elementary school is actually extremely close to this facility. It's actually the first red star you see there just to the left of the green triangle, and it is only about a half mile from that plant. For many years, they've been seeing extremely high concentrations of chloroprene, which is basically just a heavy carcinogen that they've detected in the children kind of in this area. The other thing I wanted to point out is this one has the St. John Academy Preparatory Academy, which is, I think, just a middle school and preparatory academy. North of there, it's about a mile, and that'll come into play here in a little bit. But basically, this is still ongoing today. This is not fully resolved. The EPA and the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality have been monitoring the ambient air here, so they actually had an air monitor on top of this school since 2016. And what I wanted to flag here was, since 2016, they've been monitoring and seeing these exceeding levels. It got so bad that by 2023, the EPA actually sued the company, which was at that point Denka, and said, hey, we're monitoring this, you're exceeding your limits, you have to stop. And what I thought was the most interesting about this was that case didn't actually end up going anywhere because the company's monitors in their facility were saying that they were fine. So this is again where they were saying the company was complying to their permit according to their on-site monitoring and reporting, but the EPA's own monitors about a half mile away were showing exceedances. And even then they couldn't fully resolve that in 2023 when the EPA had to sue them. So the other thing I want to point out in this was, if you don't have a state level DEQ that wants to go after enforcement, then it's going to be very hard, because after the EPA sued, they were supposed to have a deadline to correct these problems. They were supposed to do it in 2024. The state of Louisiana said, actually, hold on, you get an extra 2 years. So their resolution date was actually last month. So this is still ongoing today. They haven't officially said that they can't meet it and we're going to shut the plant down, but they have stopped emitting as of now, partially due to the fact that they couldn't meet the requirements that were passed after they were sued in 2023. So very interesting. There's a lot more to dig into on this case. It's kind of a very hot topic there in Louisiana. I actually think the Trump administration ended up not filing the suit, but they did pass a stricter limit at a national level, which did end up basically accomplishing what they were hoping to sue. But like I said, the state of Louisiana said, hey, you get an extra 2 years to try to comply. The local residents really didn't have a solution. They did look at closing this school and moving students to another location, but actually what they found was that other school, like I said, that was about a mile north. They found that the levels there were almost just as bad, so they would have had to close basically a lot of schools out in a pretty large radius, and they couldn't come up with a way to do that, so they had to focus on the enforcement here. All three of those cases were kind of what I would say is kind of what went wrong and what really didn't have what I would call a stellar resolution. The next one here, Perez Elementary, this one's in Chicago. This one had a pretty big violation in about 2005 at the bronze smelter here. And then in 2010, they installed rooftop monitors and actually installed them kind of in a circle around this to try to prove where the pollution was coming from. So it wasn't just one monitoring site. They actually had to install multiple to try to triangulate where that was, who was responsible, and it triggered an EPA investigation here. Again, point out here, it took about 5 years to convince somebody to pay enough attention to get those monitors installed. Then the EPA did investigate in 2010. Once they investigated, by 2013, it took another 3 years of kind of litigation to enforce a requirement that the company had to upgrade their emission controls. They ended up upgrading, and this case actually was very successful. They were able to show, and the monitor's still active today, on top of the Perez Elementary here that's about half mile away. They were able to show about a 98% reduction in the particulates and the pollution that was impacting the school after about 5 years. So they installed them in 2010. They were able to generate enough information to prove the need for additional enhancements at the facility by 2013. And then over the next about 5 years, so by about 2020, they were able to reduce those emissions through this active monitoring. This case, I think, is the most obvious example of if you start monitoring early, you can catch something early and you can enforce something within a reasonable time frame. But you have to have that monitoring. Where are we going to have ambient air monitoring outside of their facility? Where and who is going to monitor that? Who is going to pay for that? I don't think it should be the school district, but I think it should be answered who is and where that protection is going to be, so that you guys can be assured that you know what's going on and that you can see over time a trend that could be going in the wrong direction. Next one, I'll try to speed up here a little bit on the last one. This one I actually thought was a really interesting case. So this is in Detroit. It's about 1 mile away from, like I said, the Marathon Petroleum Facility. They had about 10 violations, permit violations from about 2017 to 2020 at this facility. And as part of resolving those, they were legally required, mandated by the court. This actually required a congressional hearing, so this one went pretty far up. And they had to basically pay to remediate a lot of this area. And one of the things they did was they actually gave about $500,000 to completely revamp the local schools' AC systems, adding filtration, adding some of the steps that Matt mentioned to kind of remove the risks or reduce heavily the risks of those particulates, the risks of any of these other pollutants. So that was really interesting to see that they actually were able to get that approved and funded by the company itself, but it did take a court order. Again, I said kind of from 2017 to 2020, and I think right after 2020 they were able to resolve it. There was real-time monitoring here, and then actually the court settlement required a public dashboard with real-time reporting of that site's monitoring. That's again one thing that's been asked a couple times for the EGA, OPA to do. Very easy. They're already going to have the data available with the systems in the plant. It's just making that data public in real time. Again, really trying to just provide that, hey, so a lot of these things we're asking for that they go, oh, that's crazy, they've been done. People do this, and the public has this transparency in other places. They're not unreasonable requests. The final part of this, which I wanted to highlight, was we actually, as the town of Inola, passed a resolution to form a steering committee to then form this panel, but it's what's called a community advisory panel. These are very common in some of these heavy industrial areas, a lot along the coast, and then back east as well. And they are what it sounds like. It's groups of people from the community who get not direct oversight, but are a body who the companies are responsible for reporting to and saying, hey, we're going to have a permit exceedance in the next week, but we're replacing the filter, we're going to do this. And that transparency mechanism was actually really interesting in this case because Marathon didn't use it, and then the court settlement actually allowed the community group to really define how the settlement had to be reached in the end. And I think this answers the question that a lot of people have, which is, hey, we form these community groups, they don't really have any jurisdiction, they don't really have any power, what do? And the answer is they can be a substantial help to the court system once something's kind of being resolved. The community can actually then have a seat at the table to kind of get that input. Final one, this just highlights a couple programs, one from the EPA and one indirectly in California. These were grant opportunities and funding that kind of promoted this internal air quality for the schools. They don't exist really anymore. The EPA one is already used up, and the California one is only if you're in California. But this was just to highlight that it's possible. State funding does exist for these kind of programs elsewhere. I don't think Oklahoma has any, but it's a reasonable request as well. And this is to highlight that they may have had the benefit of state and federal assistance. We probably don't right now. So the question is, as always, who's paying for any of these improvements, any of this monitoring, any of these upgrades to the school systems? Who pays for that? And that needs to be clarified right now, because that's an important question before we start. And that's it. The last slide's just a little summary of it. Again, the Kerry Ghosh, about 20-year delay, really no solution because they didn't have any monitoring up front. Permanent closure. The LA, $700 million shifted to the taxpayers. Fifth Ward, compliance and whether they're within their permit doesn't always mean that the ambient air is still safe around that facility. Perez, monitoring drives improvement. Like I said, within about 5 years, they were able to drive that number down for their impact. And then a final one, you have to have that binding contract. You have to have them required to help you because the voluntary does not seem to work here as well. But that's it. Again, really high level across all industries. These are not questions against specifically aluminum smelting, not against this smelter. It's questions that you should ask about any industry that comes in. So that was all for it. A little longer than Matt's, but.
Does anybody have any questions for either Matt or Thomas or anything? Okay. Agenda item 19, Jolita Ingersoll to address the board regarding an independent environmental impact study.
All right, these are, I got enough of these for all y'all. I'm not gonna talk about them. They're just some information to get y'all started. And then these, I don't have enough for everybody. Y'all can look at them as you wish. So with everything that you heard, Matt, Thomas, and all the rest of the stuff flying around, the only way that you all are, I feel like that you are going to get the answers that you need to make sure that you're ensuring that your school staff and students are safe is to ask for an environmental impact study. That's going to be a big ask, but it needs to be directed to the school and how this industry is going to affect the school. And I'm not talking about just the smelter, I'm talking about high industrial businesses. The ball was dropped back in 2017 when that land was zoned from agriculture to high industrial, okay? At that point, there should have been an environmental impact study done. There also should have been a traffic impact study done. That would explain exactly what would be safe to go in there and how it would affect, obviously, the entire environment around all of us. The traffic impact study, I think, with just people watching Facebook and the ha-has about the trucks going off the road and getting jackknifed in the roads everywhere down at Sofadale, that tells you right there, that should have been done. But with a lot of businesses that are supposedly going to come in down here at the port, the school absolutely needs a traffic impact study. You have bus routes out there, you have kids walking to school bus, walking to the school buses to get on. I think that is an absolute necessity. And I think that an environmental impact study should be done as well to help you guys figure out exactly what the school does need. Now, I understand that if a smelter does come, that it's not if it's going to pollute. It's how much is it going to pollute and how long will it take to pollute any given area. It is not a matter of if it will pollute. It's not a matter of if it is safe. Safe to me, maybe safe, not safe to you. So a school is going to have different needs, if you will, as to what safety looks like with a smelter. These smelters are not just, the smelters that are here were put in 50 years ago, 75 years ago. They were put in, a community was built around them. The people that came into these communities knew what they were doing when they came. It's a different look when you put something of that nature in the middle of an existing community. So, I mean, I know most of you all know where I stand with this. I mean, if it can be safe, I welcome it. But I can guarantee you it will never be safe enough for me because it cannot admit anything for it to be safe for me and for my farming and ranching community. Now, at what level can you as a school say you can handle on the pollution, on the emissions, okay? That's something that you're going to have to find out. Again, an environmental impact study would help that. I highly recommend trying to hire an industrial hygienist. That would probably be my first go-to. I do not think the school should hire any of these people. I don't think the school should have to pay a penny for this. This is a cost of a business doing business. I don't know exactly where the cost would fall with the environmental impact study, or the environmental impact study. I mean, the environmental or traffic impact study. I don't know where the cost should go on that, because that probably should have been done back in 2017 with the port and PSO and all that in the city. But an industrial hygienist, that needs to fall on the incoming businesses. And also an engineer to see what a school system needs to do with their heat and air for ventilation and different things like that. And this isn't something that's, I know people say, we're fear mongering. This is reality, okay? This is something that needs to be looked at. If this thing is going to put out X number of tons of fluoride and other particulates, what does the school system have to do to make our kids safe, to help our staff and kids be safe on a daily basis? What kind of cleanup procedures are we gonna have to have? Are we gonna have to hire somebody to watch the real-time monitoring? We have to have real-time monitoring. Who's gonna be responsible for paying for the monitors? Who's gonna be responsible for making sure that the cleanup is done properly? Who's gonna be responsible for keeping up with the heat and air systems? Who's gonna be responsible for changing those filters every year? How much is that going to cost? What does that look like on a daily or year-to-year basis? I can guarantee you that 41 million that's in the TIF is not a gift. It's there because you're gonna have to use it to mitigate the damages of this thing. Again, I'm not saying that the smelter can't come in. The school probably can figure out ways to be okay. But the face of our community will change when this comes in. And the changes are going to have to be made through the school as well. They're just going to have to be accepted. There's gonna be days kids won't be able to go outside, probably. Not guaranteed, but there could be. So you all really need to dig in hard. You need to look at some of the stuff that I just threw out there is just a start of some of the research. You can get on rabbit holes. Luckily, you have a number of people that have worked thousands of hours in the last 5 months on this. We have experts that we can get you in touch with. We have other people that we can share their information with you where you can call them and get questions answered. You know, I mean, to me, like I said, no emissions is what's safe to me. What's maybe safe to the school might be able to handle 150 tons of aluminum fluoride every year being put out in the air. Don't know. Nobody knows. Until the modeling's done and everything is put out there, you don't know what this plant's gonna put off. So a school system has to take the stance of, this thing's coming, it's coming into our community. Right now, the permitting says they're going to emit 425 tons of fluoride. What does that look like to our school system? That's y'all's job and duty to look at that and make sure that the school system is taken care of. It's my job and duty to make sure that the farming and ranching stuff is taken care of. And, you know, I mean, we've just all kind of taken a role on this. It's your turn now. And so we are asking you to consider, as a school board, to go in and ask the city to extend this moratorium until you can get some of your answers to your questions. And I think we brought up enough questions to be answered for you guys. We are not asking you to take a stance on this. A school should not ever take a stance on this, other than it's coming. This is what they're asking for, and this is what we're gonna have to have. If it is allowed to be built before the questions are answered, guess what? Some of those examples that Thomas was giving you are gonna be what you're gonna see, okay? You need to make a list of questions, they need to be answered, period. That's why the moratorium is so important, because if the moratorium's not still in place, then there's a chance that they can get their development agreement done and start building. And I'm sorry, but the companies should not have a problem. The poor, nobody should have a problem with people asking for questions to be answered, especially a school system that's on taxpayers' dime, period. So if anybody has pushback, I'm gonna say that there's probably a reason behind it. They don't want the questions to be answered, and that should scare everybody. Like I said, you've got the research at your fingertips with Google. If you don't understand any of it, we've got so many people right here in Inola. Inola's done such a great job of putting out so many brilliant people, it's unbelievable. All you gotta do is text one of us or whatever, and we'll send you wherever you need to go to find the information that you need. And again, like I said, you gotta understand, I understand my safe is different than other people's safe. And I know everybody's getting in a wad over this and getting mad because somebody wants it and somebody doesn't. I know, some people want it, they don't care about the emissions, they want the jobs. They don't really care about the safety of it. All the way to me, who say, I know it can't be safe for me, because anything it emits is going to build up over time. And that's one thing that you gotta understand, it's 425 tons today, 425 tons next year, and the next, and the next. Fluoride does not go away, it builds up over time. So whatever they are permitted to release is what they're going to do, I promise that. They're not going to do better. If they're gonna do better, they need to put it in writing. But whatever they're permitted to release is what they're gonna do. And all that tells me, if the numbers get lower, if it's safer, it's just, it may take longer to reach a certain area. It may, not reach certain areas, but it's still going to pollute, period. So you all need to be prepared for the pollution. I would ask some big asks from some people. They're big, lots of money. I know that I've visited up about maybe trying to do an environmental impact study ourselves. And that may possibly be able to be something that you all might be able to use if we could do that. But again, the rest of the traffic impact study, it's got to be done. It's just got to be done. That's nonstop. But we would respectfully ask for you guys to go and ask for an extension of the moratorium to help you guys answer some of the questions. Obviously, we want it because we're still trying to get questions answered too. That's not why we're here today. We're here for you to ask for that, because I think you all have a lot of work ahead of you and a lot of questions that need to be answered, that are very, very important to be answered. That's all.
Anybody have any questions or for any of them here? I have a question. And I wish Beth was still here, but during this moratorium, do you all know what the city is doing? Any research or anything, or environmental studies, or? But they're supposed to be, right? I mean,
That question was proposed to them Monday night from Thomas. Obviously, they don't really respond to questions during public comment, so we didn't get any answers.
It sounded like basically they're waiting on information to be thrown at them instead of actually doing something. It's very hard to tell where they stand. I mean, they're worried about getting sued. They're blaming everybody but themselves for getting sued. I mean, and that's where I don't want you guys to be in that situation on down the road. The things that you can do now, you need to do. And that way you won't be in a situation maybe like the city council's in, where whatever corner they come out of, they're probably gonna get sued. And it's not anybody's fault but their own for not stepping back and getting expert people to help them make the decisions that they've been making since 2017. Had they done what they should have done to begin with, none of us would be sitting here. It would be taken care of. So, you know, I don't wanna see you guys get in that situation. Y'all need to check your insurance too. And how's the insurance gonna handle this if it goes in? Are they going to exclude forever chemicals or whatever? I think that's a big deal that you all need to know and have a guarantee of, because, you know, again, taxpayers are gonna end up having to take the boot somewhere on some of this. You know, we've just got this wonderful bond passed with a beautiful school getting built.
Doesn't the moratorium end on August 28th?
Do what?
No, it's September. It's the end of September.
The moratorium, yeah.
Yeah, the end of September, so, anyway, but
Can I add something real quick?
Sure.
One thing like that, and I forget to say this earlier, that a lot of people, when you talk about comparing schools and locations, the thing that makes Inola rare, amongst all the other reasons we're rare, is the fact that with this smelter, there's only 3 schools, maybe 4, within a 3-mile radius of a smelter in the entire United States. I mean, so everywhere else when they talk about your schools, and I've called several of them and had conversations with people. Some people, you know, in other areas, you know, like when you take, you know, Kentucky, for instance, they had, at one point in time, I was talking to a guy last night, they had 3 smelters going in the same area at once. You know, he grew up that way, and that's life for them. That's coal country, you know, and for them, he talked about how all 3 of his sons work there, and 2 of his granddaughters work there now, and it's just a generational thing. And the same way that they look at big industry, heavy industry like that, the same way we're with agriculture and farming branching here. So it's apples and oranges when you compare the two as to the way that they look at things like this in the environment. They don't want to hear that anything's wrong with.
Can I interrupt? One thing. GH2,
Yes, sir.
Did you guys need to mention anything during my talk? I didn't
No,
recognize
you're
you.
good. You're good. We're actually going to the
Right,
pre-development
I just didn't know,
meeting.
did you need to address us anyway?
No, sir.
I apologize for not calling you on it.
No worries.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Sorry,
your time.
Matt, go ahead.
No, you're fine. No, you know, it's apples and oranges. So when you guys are looking at the example, we've given you guys the examples of things like that, but understand that Inola is unique. You really can't take Inola and look at any of the other, well, they didn't do this here, they did this here, they didn't do this here. You really gotta take into consideration, what's it gonna do here? Because we are unlike any other place. They haven't been built since 1980, so you're pretty much starting from scratch with a new industry. And there's a lot of promises. Like I said, I hope everything they say is absolutely correct. I mean, that's what I told them last night. But you gotta prepare for where we're at. And so like I said, I know it is very unique when you look at the way that this school is in proximity to where the smelter is.
Anything else? Anybody?
Thank you all. I mean,
Yeah.
these are three very thoughtful, well-done presentations. I mean, on behalf of the board, usually people come and they've got a really small thing they wanna complain about, that you shouldn't have hired this coach or something, but, you know, and these were very well done, and thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys.
Okay, agenda item 20, vote to convene or not to convene into executive session.
Make a motion, we convene into executive session.
Second,
Okay, voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener,
yes.
Mr. Richard Wilhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell,
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes. I am too. Did you give them that form?
Wendy has
Okay.
it.
Okay, I can just start right here, correct?
Yes.
And then I need to read this.
Yep.
Okay, we're, back in session. So agenda item 21 is acknowledge return to open session. So the board entered executive session at 1:28 p.m. to discuss district's operations and personnel. Those present were Jeff Unruh, Wendy Keener, Clint Russell, Jason Cook, Richard Wilhauer, Paul Gruenberg, and Brett Thomas for a portion. No action was taken by the board. The board returned to open session at 2:36 p.m. Okay, so that moves us to agenda item number 22. Motion to approve or disapprove employment of Jamie Walton Baugh, paracoach for school year 26-27.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 22.
Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Wilhauer,
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell,
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item 23, motion to approve or disapprove Tucker Ford, teacher coach on a temporary contract for the school year 26-27.
Motion to approve as read.
Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Wilhauer,
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell,
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item 24, motion to approve or disapprove employment of Maddox Thomas on a temporary contract for school year 26-27.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 24 as read.
Second.
Okay, voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Wilhauer,
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell,
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item 25, motion to approve or disapprove employment of Shelby Crawford, elementary teacher on temporary contract for school year 26-27.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 25 as read.
Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Wilhauer,
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell,
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item 26, new business.
I'd like to, our next scheduled meeting is September 11th. Because of a conflict, I would ask that we move that to September 18th, the following Friday, same time at noon. But it'll have to be a special meeting because, but cancel or postpone the meeting on the 11th to the 18th.
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
I make a motion that we move our regularly scheduled September board meeting to September 18th at noon.
Second.
Voting is now open. Ms. Wendy Keener,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Wilhauer,
Yes.
Mr. Clint Russell,
Yes.
Dr. Jason Cook.
Yes.
Agenda item, there's no more new business.
Yep.
27, we are adjourned.
Need to make sure you let Kelly know.
Yeah.